Beloved and chosen one, I need you to stop what you are doing right now, because what I am about to say is not something I want to rush past you. What you are carrying right now is heavier than most people in your life will ever understand. And I do not mean that as a compliment wrapped in soft language. I mean it as a fact. You have been holding things together that were never yours to hold alone. You have been showing up for people who stopped showing up for you a long time ago. You have been faithful in rooms where no one noticed, obedient in seasons where nothing made sense, and still, somehow, you are here. That alone tells me something about you that you may have forgotten about yourself. There are signs that only certain people experience, and I want to name them now. Not because I want you to feel special in a shallow way, but because I want you to feel seen in a real one. The first sign is this: your dreams have shifted. Not disappeared, but shifted. You are seeing things in your sleep that feel like messages rather than imagination. Images that repeat, doors that appear, faces you do not recognize but somehow trust. The second sign is that your tolerance for certain environments has collapsed almost overnight. Places you used to go without thinking now feel suffocating. People whose company once felt comfortable now feel like noise. Something in you has become allergic to anything that is not aligned with where you are going, and you cannot always explain why. The third sign is a grief that does not have a clean source. You are not mourning a person or an event, exactly. You are mourning a version of your life that you realize is no longer coming. And even though some part of you knows that what is ahead is better, the grief is real, and it sits in your chest at 3 a.m. like a stone. The fourth sign is that you have begun to sense that you are on the edge of something enormous, but the edge looks terrifying from where you stand. Not because you are weak, but because the thing on the other side is so much larger than the life you have been living, that it does not fit inside the framework you have used to understand yourself. And the fifth sign, the one that perhaps brought you here today, is that you are closer to making a decision that would take you away from all of this than anyone around you knows. You have not said it out loud, but you have thought it. You have stood at the edge of releasing the calling, releasing the faith, releasing the version of yourself that keeps believing something is coming, because the waiting has simply taken too much. I know that edge, and I am not here to judge you for standing there. I am here to speak to you before you take that step, because there is something you need to hear first. You have not been waiting for this moment. This moment has been waiting for you. Before I take you deeper into what this season truly means, I want to pause for just a moment and share something with you. Something that came to me not through theology but through science, and I think you will understand why I am placing it here. There is a frequency that researchers have identified inside the human brain, called gamma. And what is extraordinary is that this frequency, this specific wavelength of neural activity, has been found to be measurably stronger in people who demonstrate unusual creativity, intuition, and what scientists describe as accelerated pattern recognition. In other words, the kind of people who seem to move differently through the world. The kind of people who were never designed for ordinary. The kind of people who are listening to this message right now. Dr. James Rivers, a neuroscientist with over 30 years of research affiliated with MIT, discovered something that reframed everything I thought I understood about the seasons of difficulty. He found that chosen individuals, people who carry a stronger gamma baseline than average, are especially vulnerable to having that frequency suppressed during long seasons of hardship, isolation, and unrelenting pressure. The very seasons that are meant to prepare you can, if nothing intervenes, dim the very frequency that makes you who you are. His research led to the creation of something called the Genius Wave, a 7-minute audio experience built to restore and activate that frequency, without requiring any technique, training, or prior experience from you. If you feel something stir in you when I describe this, the link is already waiting for you in the pinned comment below. We will come back to this in much greater detail very soon, but I did not want to take you through everything that is about to unfold without first giving you that anchor. Now let me return to where we were, because what I said before about this moment waiting for you, I do not want that to pass by you like a piece of inspiration you hear and nod at and forget. I want you to feel what it actually means. You did not stumble here. You were directed here, and there is a difference. Stumbling implies accident. Being directed implies intention, and behind intention, there is always a mind and a will that is larger than your own. I have spoken to enough people in this season, people who were hours away from releasing everything, to know that the moment the voice finds them is almost never random. It is almost always the last moment before the decision becomes irreversible. And I am not saying that to frighten you. I am saying it because I want you to understand the precision of what is happening right now. You are an earth angel, and I do not use that phrase the way it is used in greeting card language or in casual spiritual spaces. I use it the way it was always meant to be used, to describe someone who was sent into this world, not simply to live a life, but to carry something for the people around them who cannot yet carry it themselves. You feel things more deeply than others. You absorb the atmosphere of rooms the moment you enter them. You have a sensitivity that the world has sometimes treated as a liability, but which was always, from the beginning, your gift and your assignment. And earth angels have a particular experience that almost no one speaks about directly, which is that the season immediately before their breakthrough does not feel like a runway. It feels like a collapse. It feels like everything they have been building is coming undone. It feels like the calling was a mistake, the faith was misplaced, and the only rational thing left to do is to let go. That is not weakness. That is the signature of the season you are in. The fact that it feels like it is ending is, in most cases, the first sign that it is actually beginning. Heaven has not forgotten where you are. Heaven has not paused, redirected, or reconsidered. Heaven has been absolutely precise, and what feels like abandonment to you right now is, from the other side of this story, the final positioning before everything changes. I know that is difficult to hold when the weight is this heavy. I know that words from a screen feel thin against pain that is this deep and this personal. But I am not asking you to feel it yet. I am asking you to stay long enough to hear the rest. Close your eyes for just a moment if you are able. Here is a practice to carry you into what comes next, and it has 3 steps that anyone can do anywhere: in a car, in a quiet room, in the middle of a night that will not let you sleep. The first step is to bring to mind one thing you are grateful for that did not happen. Not something good that came to you, but a door that closed, a relationship that ended, a plan that fell apart, and that you can now see, even dimly, protected you from something you were not ready for. Hold that for a moment. Let it remind you that what looks like loss is not always loss. The second step is to say, either aloud or silently, these words: "My time is not measured by what I can see." That statement belongs to a different understanding of time than the one the world has given you, and we will explore it together. But for now, let it simply sit in you like a seed. The third step is to give yourself 7 minutes of silence. Not meditation requiring technique, not prayer requiring words, just 7 minutes of still, open quiet in which you allow whatever is ready to surface without chasing it or pushing it away. 7 minutes. That is all. And when those 7 minutes are done, everything I am about to share with you will land differently than it would have before. If something moved in you just now, even something small, I want to invite you gently to press like on this message so that it finds the next chosen one who is standing at the same edge you were standing at when you arrived here. Leave a word in the comments below, just one word, anything that describes what you are carrying today, so that the people who come after you know they are not arriving alone. If you know someone who is quietly running out of reasons to stay in the fight, share this with them today, because your share might be the voice they needed to hear before they made a decision they could not undo. And if you have not yet subscribed, do that now, not as a favor to this channel, but so that the next message, which is already being prepared for you, reaches you without you having to search for it. There is also a donation link in the pinned comment below if you feel moved to pass the light forward to the person who will find this message after you. No pressure, no obligation, just an open door. Now let what you just received settle in you as we step together into the full picture of what is waiting for you in this season. Earlier in this message, I briefly mentioned something. Now I want to give you the full picture, because what I shared in those few sentences deserves more than a passing reference. It deserves a full explanation, and you deserve to understand exactly what it means for someone like you. Chosen ones carry a specific frequency. That is not a metaphor. That is not spiritual poetry dressed up in scientific language. Researchers who study human neural activity have identified a specific brainwave called gamma that operates at a higher frequency than the other brainwave states the brain moves through during a normal day. Gamma sits above beta, which is ordinary waking consciousness, above alpha, which is the relaxed and creative state, above theta, which is the deep imaginative and intuitive state, and above delta, which is deep sleep. Gamma is the frequency of integration, of insight, of the kind of thinking that connects things other people cannot connect, of the kind of perception that notices what others miss. And the research is clear. Individuals who demonstrate unusual creativity, accelerated learning, high intuition, and what can only be described as an unusually clear inner compass tend to carry a stronger gamma baseline than the general population. That is you. That has always been you, and it is not an accident. Dr. James Rivers has spent over 30 years in neuroscience research affiliated with MIT and with programs connected to NASA, and the work that he dedicated those decades to was specifically focused on understanding why certain individuals seem to carry this elevated frequency, and what happens to that frequency when it is subjected to prolonged stress, isolation, grief, and the particular kind of spiritual exhaustion that comes from waiting for something that has not yet arrived. What he found was both precise and, for many people who hear it, deeply personal. The frequency does not disappear under pressure, but it does become suppressed. The neural pathways that carry gamma activity become congested, overwhelmed, buried under the accumulated weight of hard seasons. The potential is still there. The wiring is still intact, but the signal's being drowned out by everything the chosen one has had to carry. And then Dr. Rivers found something else. He found that the brain, when given the right acoustic environment, will synchronize with an external frequency through a process called brainwave entrainment. This is not a new discovery. It is a well-documented phenomenon in neuroscience. The brain is not a closed system. It is a responsive one. And when it is given a specific combination of sounds, particularly a technique called binaural beats, combined with what researchers call isochronic tones, sounds that are calibrated with extraordinary precision, it begins to shift its own dominant frequency toward what it is hearing. The brain, in other words, can be guided back toward gamma, back toward itself, back toward that frequency that was always there before the weight of the waiting began to press it down. The genius wave is the result of 30 years of that research condensed into a 7-minute audio experience. Not 30 minutes, not an hour of daily practice, not a course, a program, or a method that requires anything from you except 7 minutes and a willingness to listen. And I want to be honest with you about why I am mentioning this. Because I am aware that we are in the middle of a deeply spiritual conversation, and I do not want this to feel like an interruption. I am mentioning it because the 7 minutes of silence I asked you to practice at the end of part 1 were not random. They were an invitation into exactly the kind of neural stillness that the genius wave is designed to meet. You have already felt a version of what this does. What Dr. Rivers built is the full version of that experience, repeated daily, compounding over time. I want to tell you about a woman named Cecilia, not because her story is the only story, but because it is one I think you will recognize. Cecilia had been in ministry for 11 years. She had poured herself into a community that eventually fractured under circumstances she had no control over, and she found herself, at 43, with no platform, no congregation, no income connected to her calling, and a gamma frequency, though she would not have used that word, that had been almost entirely suppressed under the weight of grief, displacement, and spiritual confusion. A friend sent her the link to the genius wave. She used it for 21 consecutive days. She told me that by day 9, she began waking up with ideas she had not had the capacity to form in 3 years. By day 19, she had written the first 3 chapters of a book she had been carrying for a decade. And by day 21, she had received an invitation, unsolicited, to speak at an event that led directly to the next chapter of her life. She did not fight for it. She did not manufacture it. She simply created the internal conditions in which the right things could finally find her. I know some of you are thinking that $39 is not nothing, and I want to say clearly, that feeling is valid. When you have been in a season where resources have been tight and every decision feels high stakes, $39 deserves to be considered carefully. I am not dismissing that. What I will say is this: the genius wave normally carries a price of $49. Today, through the single link in the pinned comment below, it is available for $39. It comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee, which means you have 3 full months to experience it and decide for yourself whether it has done what I am telling you it does. If it has not, you get every dollar back. No argument, no process, no fine print designed to make you give up. There is one more thing I need to tell you, and I want you to hear this carefully. There are imitation products using this name in places other than the link I am pointing you to. Do not buy from any source other than the single link in the pinned comment below. The real genius wave comes only through that link, and anything else is not what Dr. Rivers created. The number of units available at this price is not unlimited. The window during which the current price holds is not guaranteed beyond what is described at the link. If you have been feeling in this message that something is stirring in you, and the genius wave is part of what you are feeling stirred toward, I want you to act on that feeling today rather than returning to it later when the conditions may have changed. Go to the pinned comment, find the link. Let yourself take this one step toward restoring what the long season has pressed down in you. There is something I want to do right now that most voices in your life have not done, and it is simply this. I want to name exactly what you are feeling, not in general terms, not in the broad strokes of inspirational language, but specifically and precisely, the way someone names a thing they have actually seen up close. Because one of the most isolating parts of the season you are in is not the difficulty itself. It is the feeling that no one around you has the vocabulary for what you are experiencing. People offer you encouragement and you receive it graciously. But somewhere inside you, there is a quiet voice saying that what they are describing is not quite this. What you are carrying does not fit inside the containers most people hand you. And that gap between what you are living and what others can see is one of the loneliest places a chosen one can inhabit. So let me try to close that gap right now. The first sign that you are in this particular season is a wave of sadness about the past that arrives without warning and without a clear trigger. You will be in the middle of an ordinary moment, washing dishes, driving somewhere familiar, sitting in a room you have sat in 100 times, and something will move through you that feels like mourning. Not depression exactly, not regret exactly, but a grief that is oriented backward, toward years that passed, toward the person you were before the long season began, toward moments of lightness and possibility that now feel like they belong to someone else. And the confusing part is that you cannot always name what you are grieving. You just know that something is being mourned, and that the mourning is both appropriate and completely unexplainable at the same time. The second sign is that familiar places and familiar people have begun to feel heavy and strange in a way they did not before. The environment you have lived in for years, the relationships you have maintained with care and loyalty, the routines that once felt comfortable and grounding, they have begun to feel like clothes that no longer fit. Not because they are bad, not because the people in them are wrong, but because something inside you has shifted at a level that has not yet been reflected in your external circumstances. You are outgrowing a life before you have been given the next one, and that gap between who you are becoming and where you still are creates a particular kind of dissonance that is very difficult to carry in silence. The third sign is a recurring experience, sometimes in dreams and sometimes in your waking imagination, of a door that has not yet been opened. It appears in different forms. Sometimes it is a literal door in a dream. Sometimes it is a sense of standing at the edge of a room you have not yet been permitted to enter. Sometimes it is a vision of a life that is close enough to feel real, but just beyond the reach of what you can currently grasp. And there is always something on the other side of that door that you recognize without being able to fully describe. Not wealth exactly, not success exactly, but rightness. The feeling that on the other side of that threshold, things will finally make sense in a way they have not made sense in a very long time. The fourth sign is that you keep receiving the same message from completely different directions. A verse that finds you 3 times in 1 week. A phrase that appears in a song, then in a conversation you were not expecting to have, then in something you read at 3 in the morning when you could not sleep. A theme that keeps surfacing in the most unlikely places, as if something is trying to get your attention through every available channel because it is not sure which one you are still listening to. Chosen ones in this season report this experience almost universally, and it is not coincidence. It is confirmation. Something is trying to make sure you do not miss what is being said. And beneath all 4 of these signs, there is something else. There is the insomnia that visits you in the early hours and refuses to be reasoned with. There is the loneliness that persists even in rooms full of people who love you. There is the feeling of having been wronged in ways you cannot fully prove. The injustice of years given to something that did not give back what it promised. the quiet injury of having been overlooked by people who should have seen you, passed over by opportunities that should have found you, made invisible in spaces where your presence deserved to be recognized. And running alongside all of that is the particular ache of being misunderstood, of knowing that what you carry is significant and real, and not being able to make the people closest to you feel the weight of it the way you feel it every single day. I want to stay here with you in this for a moment, before I say what I am about to say, because it is important that you know I am not rushing past this pain to get to a resolution. The pain is real. The loss is real. The years of invisibility and unexplained struggle are real. I am not going to minimize any of that by pivoting too quickly into perspective. What has been taken from you deserves to be acknowledged before it is reframed. And now I want to offer you a reframe, not because the pain was not real, but because the interpretation you have been given for it is incomplete. There is a difference between being overlooked and being positioned, and it is one of the most important distinctions a chosen one in this season can learn to make. Being overlooked means you were present, you were visible, you were considered, and you were passed by. It carries with it the implication that the person doing the overlooking had the authority to determine your value, and that their decision was final. Being positioned means something entirely different. It means you were placed, deliberately and with intention, in a location that is not yet your destination, but that is necessary for the journey. Being positioned means the one who put you there is not the person who passed you by. It is the one who saw further than any of them could see and decided that where you are right now is exactly where you need to be for the next thing to become possible. You have not been overlooked. You have been positioned, and the distinction between those two words will change the way you carry everything that has happened to you in the years behind. The waiting you have endured has not been a punishment assigned to you for something you did or did not do. It has not been evidence that your calling was a fantasy, or that your faith was misplaced, or that you were less than the people who seemed to move forward while you stood still. The waiting has been a form of protection. You were not ready for what is coming, not because you were insufficient, but because what is coming is so significant that arriving at it prematurely would have cost you everything. The walls that seemed to close in around you were not a prison. They were a preparation chamber, and preparation chambers are, by design, not comfortable. They are not meant to be comfortable. They are meant to be thorough. You are not being held back. You are being held together until the moment when everything that has assembled in the dark can finally be released into the light. If you have been nodding quietly as I have described these 4 signs, if something in you has been saying, yes, that is what it has been like, I want to invite you to pause for just a moment here. What you have just recognized in yourself is not only personal, it is part of a wave of chosen ones all across the world who are arriving at this same recognition at this very same time. There are people in different countries, different languages, different circumstances, who are reading these words and feeling the exact same stir of being seen. You are not alone in what you have been carrying, even when the season made it feel that way. If this message has been reaching into something real in you, I want to gently invite you to press like, not for the sake of a number on a screen, but so that this message travels further and finds the next person who is in desperate need of being named and seen the way you have just been. Leave a word in the comments, just a single word, as a way of marking that you were here, that you showed up for yourself today, and that something in you responded. And if someone comes to mind right now, who has been struggling to find stillness in a particularly noisy and heavy season, share this with them. That one act might be the most significant thing you do for someone you love today. You can also leave a blessing in the pinned comment below, passing something forward to the next chosen one who finds their way here, whatever you feel moved to offer. And if you have not yet chosen to remain in this community, subscribing is not a platform. Action. It is choosing to stay at the table with people who understand what you have been carrying. Type the word "ready" in the comments right now if you recognize yourself in what I have described. Just that one word. Because I want to know you were here, and I want the people who come after you to know they were not the first. What I am about to share next is going to ask something of you that the season of overlooking tried to take away. It is going to ask you to honor what the years have cost you, fully and without rushing past the grief of it, before we speak about what those years were building toward. Let me begin where we just left off, because what I named in the signs and in the distinction between overlooked and positioned, that was not the end of the truth. That was the threshold of it. And before I take you through the door, I need to do something that most messages in this space are too eager to skip. I need to sit with you in the cost. Not the cost as a concept, the actual cost. The specific, irreplaceable things that the years of waiting have taken from you that cannot be simply reframed away with the right words and the right perspective. Because if I move too quickly from your pain to your promise, I have not honored you. I have only used your pain as a setup for a speech, and you deserve better than that. So let us sit here for a moment, honestly and without hurrying toward the resolution. Think about the relationships that could have been built during these years but were not, because the season you were in did not allow for the kind of presence that real relationship requires. Think about the friendships that drifted, not because anyone was wrong, but because you were in a place that most people could not follow you into, and the distance that the hard season created became, over time, a distance that was simply too wide to close. Think about the people you watched build their lives outward while yours seemed to be building downward, going deeper into places no one could see, and how you sat at tables and smiled and celebrated them while something in your chest was quietly breaking in a way you did not have the words or the permission to describe. Those relationships, the ones that could have been and were not, they are a real loss, not a lesson yet. A loss first. Think about what could have happened with your career, your craft, your contribution to the world, if the path had been cleaner. There are people who are doing now, with visibility and resources and support, the very thing you were called to do years ago. And you have watched them from a distance and told yourself that their success does not diminish yours, which is true, but which does not entirely close the ache of knowing that what you carry has been waiting in a drawer while others built platforms on the very ground you were the first to identify as sacred. The career that could have gone further, the doors that could have opened earlier, the years of compounding momentum that you did not get to build because the season did not permit it. That is a real thing that happened to you, and it deserves to be called what it is before it is called anything else. Think about the dreams you stopped saying out loud. Not because you stopped believing in them entirely, but because the gap between the dream and the visible reality became so wide that speaking the dream in public felt like an act of vulnerability you could no longer afford. You learned to hold your vision quietly. You learned to stop sharing the fullness of what you see for your life because the responses you received, even the well-meaning ones, began to feel like small deaths. The gentle skepticism of people who love you but cannot see what you see. the polite encouragement that lands like doubt in the wrong light. You traded the freedom of speaking your dreams openly for the protection of keeping them close. And something was lost in that trade. The lightness of a life spoken aloud, the freedom of being known fully by the people around you. That freedom was a casualty of the long season, and I do not want to skip past it as though it were a small thing. And then there is the loss that is perhaps the most difficult to name, because it is the most personal and the least visible to anyone outside you. The loss of faith in yourself, not faith in God, though for some of you that has been shaken too. And I am not judging that. I mean the specific, practical, daily faith in your own perception, the trust in your own sense of direction, the confidence that when you feel something is true, when you sense that something is coming, when you believe that the thing you are moving toward is real and not imagined, you can actually trust that inner knowing. The years of waiting, the years of believing and not yet seeing have worn that confidence down in ways that are very hard to recover from without help. You second-guess yourself now in ways you did not before the long season began. You hold your own counsel at arm's length. You have become, in the most quiet and interior way, a stranger to the certainty you once carried. And that loss, the loss of trust in your own inner voice, may be the most significant thing the waiting has taken from you. I want to stay in all of that for just a moment longer before I go anywhere else, because it needed to be said in full. Now I want to turn to someone whose story I have been holding in reserve for this exact moment in this exact conversation. His name is Elijah, and I am going to the 19th chapter of the first book of Kings, but I am not going to take you to the triumphant part of his story, because this is not the moment for triumph. This is the moment for honesty. And the most honest part of Elijah's story is not the fire on Mount Carmel. It is what came immediately after it. Elijah had just done something extraordinary. He had stood alone against 450 prophets of Baal on a mountaintop and watched fire fall from heaven in response to his prayer. He had seen the impossible become visible. He had operated at the absolute pinnacle of his prophetic calling. And then a message came from a woman named Jezebel, a single message, a threat against his life, and something in Elijah collapsed entirely. He ran into the wilderness, a day's journey in, and he sat down under a juniper tree. And he said something that I want you to hear very carefully. He said, "It is enough." He used those exact words. It is enough. He had had enough. He was done. He asked God to take his life. He said he was no better than his fathers, which is one of the most devastating things a person can say about themselves. That all of this has amounted to nothing. That I have not exceeded or transcended or escaped. I have simply arrived at the same place everyone before me arrived at. I am not special. I am just tired. And then he lay down and fell asleep under a tree in the middle of a wilderness. That is where I want to leave him for right now. Not because the story ends there, but because the truth of where he is in that moment is too important to rush past. Elijah was not weak. He was not faithless. He was not a failed prophet or a broken instrument. He was a human being who had given everything and then received, not reward, but threat, not rest, but danger. And the weight of that, after the weight of everything that came before it, was simply more than he could hold standing up. I want you to notice something. The greatest single act of Elijah's prophetic life was immediately followed by the moment he came closest to ending everything. That sequence is not an accident, and it is not a contradiction. It is a pattern. And if you are listening to this message from a place that feels like your own juniper tree, exhausted and spent and saying in your own way that you have had enough, then you are not in a foreign story. You are inside a pattern that has played out in the lives of the most significant people who ever walked through the seasons you are walking through right now. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the part that comes right before the angel arrives, and what comes next is going to change how you understand the ground you are standing on. What I am about to share with you now is going to require you to set down, just for a few minutes, the framework of time that the world handed you when you were young. Not permanently, just long enough to pick up a different one. Because the framework most of us were given for understanding time is a very specific and very limited one, and it has been causing you to misread your own story in ways that have added unnecessary suffering to an already heavy season. The framework the world gave you says that time moves in a straight line, that progress looks like forward motion, that if you are not visibly advancing, you are falling behind, that the years are either producing something measurable or they are being wasted, that a life can be evaluated at any given moment by how far along the visible path you have traveled. That framework is not entirely wrong, but for a chosen one in the season you are in, it is catastrophically incomplete. And applying it to your life has been like trying to read a map of the ocean using a map designed for roads. The instrument is not suited for the terrain, and the conclusions it produces will always mislead you. So let me give you two different instruments. Two ancient ways of understanding time that were not invented by motivational culture or self-help literature. They were discovered, excavated from the lived experience of people who walked through exactly what you are walking through and came out the other side with language precise enough to describe what happened to them. The first is a word. It is a Hebrew word, and the word is kava. It is most often translated in English as waiting, and that translation has done enormous damage to the people who needed to understand what the word actually means. Because kava does not mean waiting the way we use that word in ordinary language. Waiting, in the way we use it, is passive. It is the posture of someone sitting in a room watching a door, doing nothing, going nowhere, simply enduring the passage of time until something external changes. That is not kava. Kava comes from a root that means to twist, to braid, to interweave strands together under tension until they form something that is stronger than any single strand could ever be on its own. The image is of a rope being made, not a single thread lying slack on a surface, but multiple threads being pulled and twisted and interwoven under deliberate pressure until what emerges is something that can hold enormous weight. When the ancient writers used the word kava to describe the experience of waiting on God, they were not describing passivity. They were describing a process. They were describing something that looks from the outside like stillness, but is, on the inside, an active and invisible construction. Every year you have spent in this season, every year that looked from the outside like stagnation and from the inside felt like confusion and pressure, was not a year lost. It was a strand being added to the rope. The tension you have felt, the pressure that has at times been almost unbearable, is not evidence that something is wrong. It is evidence that the braiding is happening. Ropes are not made in comfort. They are made under tension. And what is being made in you right now is something that will be able to hold a weight that your previous self, the one who existed before the long season began, simply did not have the structure to carry. You are not delayed. You are being assembled. Ride that again and let it move through you differently than the inspirational phrases you have learned to hear and release without absorbing. You are not delayed. The years are not behind you as evidence of failure. They are woven into you as the material of your capacity. What you will be able to carry, sustain, and hold together in the next season of your life is directly proportional to the tension that is being applied to you in this one. The waiting was never waiting. It was always building. You simply did not have the word for what was being built. Now let me give you the second instrument, because kava tells you what has been happening in the years behind you, but there is something else you need for the moment you are standing in right now. At this precise threshold, on this particular day, when the decision feels like it is in your hands, and the weight of it is almost too much to hold. In the ancient world, there were two words for time that existed alongside each other and described two completely different experiences of the same phenomenon. The first word was chronos. Chronos is the time you can measure. It is the time on the clock, the date on the calendar, the number of years that have passed since you began waiting for something that has not yet arrived. Chronos is the time that has felt like your enemy, the time you have been counting, the time that has seemed to argue against your faith every single morning when you wake up, and the thing you are believing for is still not visible. Chronos is the framework the world handed you, and it is the framework that has been telling you that you are running out of it. But the second word was kairos, and kairos does not mean a measure of time. It means a quality of time. It means the right moment, the appointed convergence, the specific instant in which conditions align in a way that makes something possible that was not possible in any of the moments that came before it. Kairos is not the next moment on the clock. Kairos is the moment that was being prepared for while the clock was running. Chronos asks how long. Kairos asks what is now ready. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that I want you to hold very carefully right now, is that Kairos moments do not announce themselves in advance. They do not come with a visible buildup that allows you to prepare. They arrive, and the only people who are ready for them are the people who remained in position through all the chronos, time that surrounded them. You have been living in chronos, counting days, counting years, counting the gap between where you are and where you believe you are supposed to be. And that counting has been exhausting you in ways that go beyond the ordinary tiredness of a hard season. It has been a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from using the wrong instrument to measure something that cannot be measured by that instrument. Chronos cannot tell you when your kairos is coming. It cannot tell you how close you are. It cannot give you a reliable reading on the distance between your current position and the appointed moment. All Chronos can tell you is how much of it has passed. And that information, when held without the context of Kairos, will always feel like evidence against you. But your Kairos is not measured by how many Chronos days have accumulated. It is measured by how fully assembled you are. And the braiding of kava, the twisting together of everything the long season has been weaving into you, is the very process by which you become ready for the Kairos moment that has been approaching you from the other direction all along. Let me place these two things together in a single image. You have been standing in a corridor, and the corridor has felt impossibly long. Every day you have looked at the length of it behind you, and the length of it ahead of you, and the length itself has felt like an indictment. But the corridor was not a punishment. It was a passage, and at the far end of it, the door that you saw in your dreams, the one that appeared closed and just beyond reach, has been open for longer than you know. What was not yet ready was not the door. What was not yet ready was the rope, and the rope is almost complete. At the midnight hour, when everyone who was watching from the outside concluded that the story was over, when even you began to consider the possibility that the faith had been misplaced and the vision had been a beautiful mistake, something began to move in the direction of where you are standing. Not soon, not eventually, now. Heaven began to move at the exact moment the night felt most permanent. The darkness you are in is not the darkness of abandonment. It is the darkness of midnight. And midnight is not the end of the night. It is the turn of it. I want to leave one thing with you before we move forward, and it connects to something I mentioned earlier in this message. Dr. James Rivers discovered, after 30 years of research, that the gamma frequency, the specific neural signature of the chosen one, is most severely suppressed at midnight moments. Not because the person has lost their capacity, but because the weight of the long season has layered over the signal. The genius wave was built precisely for this moment. The moment just before the turn, when the rope is almost finished and the kairos is almost here. But the person who is supposed to step through the door can barely feel their own frequency anymore. If you are at that moment right now, the link is in the pinned comment. It will be there when you are ready. What is coming next is going to ask you to open your eyes to 3 specific areas of your life where the ground has already begun to shift. Even if you have not been able to see the movement yet, something is already moving. I want you to hear that, not as encouragement, designed to lift your mood, but as a report. A description of what is actually happening in the unseen architecture of your life right now, whether you can feel it or not, whether the visible evidence supports it or not. The ground beneath the season you have been standing in has begun to shift, and the 3 areas I am about to describe are not predictions. They are observations. Things that are already in motion that your chronos, measuring mind, has not yet been given the instruments to detect. But that your deeper knowing, the part of you that brought you to this message today, has already been registering in the form of restlessness, anticipation, and the particular kind of ache that only comes when something enormous is very close. Let me be specific. The first area is your relationships. And what is about to happen here is going to feel disorienting before it feels like relief. Some people who have been in your life for a long time are going to begin to move away. Not dramatically, not through conflict or rupture, though for some of you there may be moments of that too. Mostly, it will happen quietly, a gradual loosening of connection, a natural drift that neither of you fully engineers, but that both of you, on some level, will recognize as right. And I want to prepare you for this, because the temptation, when you feel that drift beginning, will be to chase it, to tighten your grip, to interpret the loosening as rejection, and to work harder to hold in place what is already being released. Do not do that. What is leaving because it has served its purpose in your story, and its departure is making room. Not empty room. Room that will be filled, and filled with precision, by people who are already being positioned in your direction right now. People who carry the same frequency you carry, who will recognize you without needing you to explain yourself, who will show up, not to take from what you are building, but to add to it in ways you have not yet been able to imagine. The new people will not arrive the way the old relationships did, slowly and through years of proximity. They will arrive suddenly and with a quality of recognition that will feel almost unreasonable in its immediacy. You will meet someone and within a single conversation have the sense that you have known them for years, that they understand something about you that people who have been in your life for decades have never quite grasped. That is not coincidence. That is positioning. That is the kairos quality of relationship that becomes possible only after the chronos season has done its work of clearing and assembling and preparing you to be truly known. The second area is your purpose, and specifically the answer to the question that has been haunting you through the entire length of the waiting season. The question of what you are supposed to do next. That question has felt enormous and unanswerable, for a long time, and the size of it has been part of what has been pressing you toward the edge. When you cannot see the next step clearly, and the pressure to move is mounting, and the resources to stay still are running out, the question of what to do becomes almost unbearable in its weight. I want to tell you something about that question that I believe will change how you are holding it. The answer is not going to arrive as a complete blueprint. It is not going to come as a vision that shows you the full arc of everything from here to the end. It is going to come as one clear small step, one specific, undeniable, almost embarrassingly simple action that you will know with a certainty that bypasses the analytical mind entirely. And the reason it will come that way is not because the full vision does not exist. The full vision absolutely exists. But the full vision is too large for where you currently are, and being shown all of it at once would paralyze you rather than move you. So what is coming is a step. One step that is so clearly illuminated that you will not be able to pretend you did not see it. And taking that step will reveal the next one, and the one after that, and the architecture of your purpose will become visible to you incrementally, the way a path through a dark forest becomes visible when you are carrying a lantern. The lantern does not show you the whole forest. It shows you enough to take the next step safely, and that is all you have ever needed. The third area is resources and opportunities, and this is where I want to speak most directly to the part of you that has been fighting. You have been working harder than you should have had to work, for less than you should have had to accept. You have been overextending yourself in systems and environments that were not designed for someone like you, forcing your way into rooms that were never going to open fully, because they were not the rooms you were supposed to be in. And the fighting, the constant expenditure of energy just to stay afloat, just to maintain the most basic level of forward motion, has been one of the most depleting aspects of this season. It has made everything harder than it needed to be. Not because you were doing it wrong, but because you were doing it in the wrong location. What is coming is not going to require that kind of fighting. What is coming is going to arrive with a quality of ease that will initially feel suspicious to you, because you have been in the fighting posture for so long that ease will feel like a trick. It will feel too simple. You will look for the catch. I want to encourage you now, before it arrives, to let yourself receive it without immediately bracing for the thing that makes it fall apart. You are about to begin receiving what is due to you, not as a reward that has to be chased and captured, but as an arrival that comes because the season of preparation is complete and the alignment is finally in place. Resources are going to find you. Opportunities are going to present themselves through channels that make no logical sense given your current visible position. Doors are going to open that you did not knock on from people who were given your name without knowing why, in timing that you will not be able to attribute to your own strategy. Now let me tell you what not to do during this period, because the transition between the midnight season and the Kairos moment is a vulnerable one, and there are specific mistakes that chosen ones make in this window that can delay what is already in motion. Do not make permanent decisions based on how you feel on your hardest days. The exhaustion you are carrying right now is real, but it is not a reliable narrator. It will tell you that nothing is coming. It will tell you that the signs you are seeing are wishful thinking. It will tell you that the people who seem to be arriving in your direction are too good to be real. Do not let the voice of the long season speak over the evidence of the new one. Do not shrink yourself back into the size the waiting demanded of you, just as the space around you begins to expand, and do not rush. The ease that is coming does not require you to run toward it. It is coming toward you. Your assignment is simply to remain in position, awake and open, without forcing the timeline back into Chronos language. You can believe in what is coming, not as blind optimism, as informed trust, grounded in everything the long season has built in you, grounded in the ancient understanding of Kava and Kairos, grounded in the pattern of Elijah under the tree, who did not know that the angel was already on the way. Chosen ones do not just receive what is given to them. They carry it forward and multiply it for the people who are walking the road behind them. Every person who finds this message is part of something larger than a single story. If what I have just described has landed somewhere real in you, I want to invite you to press like on this message, not as a gesture toward a number, but as an act of choosing to be part of what is being built here. Drop a word in the comment below as a signal to every other chosen one watching that they are not in this room alone. And if someone is still in the thick of their waiting season and needs to know the ground is already shifting beneath them, share this with them today, because that one act of sharing might be the thing that keeps them in position long enough for their own kairos to arrive. Stay at this table by subscribing, because what is being prepared for the next message belongs to you, and you should not have to search for it. And if you feel moved to sow into the ground that grows something for the next person in line, the donation link is in the pinned comment below. Type the word receive in the comments if you can feel the ground beginning to shift. Just that one word. Because I want to know you are here, and I want the ones coming after you to know the shift is real. What I want to give you next is a name, not a label. Not a category. A name for who you have become through everything this season has asked of you, and what that name means for the life that is now beginning to open in front of you. There is something I want to carry forward from what we just established together, because the three areas I described are not simply things that are happening to you. They are things that are happening through you. And that distinction matters enormously for what I am about to give you now. Throughout the entire length of this message, from the moment I named the 5 signs at the very beginning to the moment I described the ground shifting beneath your feet, there has been a question living underneath everything I have said. A question that the long season has been answering without your permission, building an answer inside you through every year of pressure and tension and invisible braiding, through every midnight hour and every door that stayed closed just long enough to assemble what needed to be assembled before it opened. The question is not what you are going to do next. The question is who you have become. And I want to give that person a name right now. You are a peace carrier. I want to explain what that means, because I am not using it the way the word peace is sometimes used in shallow or decorative ways, as a feeling of calm, as the absence of conflict, as a pleasant emotional state that comes when circumstances cooperate. That is not the kind of peace I am naming in you. The peace that you carry is something altogether different in origin and in weight and in what it costs the person who carries it. A peace carrier is someone who has been through the kind of seasons that strip away every false source of stability, one by one, until the only thing left standing is something that cannot be stripped. Every relationship that could have been a substitute for real groundedness was removed. Every career achievement that could have become an identity was made unavailable. Every external validation that could have served as a false floor beneath your sense of worth was pulled back. And what the long season discovered through all of that stripping is that there is something in you that remains. Not because you manufactured it, not because you disciplined yourself into it, but because it was placed in you before the season began, and the season was in part designed to prove to you that it was there, and that it could not be taken. That remaining thing is what you now carry, and it is not for you alone. A peace carrier does not simply experience peace in their own interior life. They bring it into rooms. They shift the atmosphere of spaces they enter in ways that other people feel but cannot always name. There are people in your life, people you may not have identified as such, who come to you in their hardest moments, not because you have solutions, but because something settles in them when they are near you. Something quiets, something that was frantic becomes still. That is not a personality trait. That is a function. And the long season of stripping and pressing and braiding was the process by which that function was deepened in you to a level that can now carry weight that would have broken the earlier version of you entirely. The world does not have enough peace carriers. It has an abundance of noise, of urgency, of voices that escalate and accelerate and amplify everything that is already overwhelming. What it is desperately short of is people who have been through the fire and come out the other side, carrying something that does not burn, something that can be offered to people who are themselves standing at the edge of decisions they cannot come back from, people who are sitting under their own juniper trees, asking if it is enough now, if they can finally stop. You have been prepared for those people. You are the voice that finds them at the right moment. You are that presence that holds the space steady while everything around them is moving too fast. You are the one who knows how to sit with someone in their midnight without rushing them toward a morning they are not yet able to see. That is what a peace carrier does. And you have been becoming one through every single year of this season, whether you recognized it or not. I want to speak some specific blessings over you now, and I want you to receive them, not as words passing through your ears, but as things being placed in you, settled into the ground of who you are, belonging to you as fully as everything the long seasoned and built in you belongs to you. May the weight you have been carrying finally find its right proportion in your hands. Not removed entirely, because some of what you carry is your calling, and your calling is not a burden to be set down, but a gift to be held rightly. But may the part of the weight that was never yours to carry begin to lift from your shoulders today, quietly and permanently, in a way that you notice first as a small lightness, and then gradually as a freedom you had forgotten was possible. May the people who are coming towards you find you ready to be found, not performing readiness, not manufacturing openness, but genuinely available in the way that only someone who has been thoroughly emptied and thoroughly filled can be available. May the recognition between you and them be immediate and unmistakable, and may you have the courage to trust it without demanding that it first make logical sense. May your voice return to you, the full voice, the one that spoke freely before the long season taught it to be careful, the one that named things without apology and carried conviction without needing to qualify every sentence with uncertainty. May that voice come back into your body and into your words and into the rooms where the people who need a peace carrier are waiting without knowing what they are waiting for. May the resources that were withheld during the season of preparations arrive now with a speed that surprises you, not because speed is the point, but because the timing of their arrival will be its own form of confirmation that the season has genuinely turned, and that what is moving toward you is moving with intention and with the full awareness of everything that was asked of you in the years behind you. May your sleep return, the deep, uninterrupted, restorative sleep that the long season of 3 in the morning wakefulness has been stealing from you. May your body remember what it feels like to rest without bracing, to be still without vigilance, to release the day without carrying it into the night. And may you know, in whatever quiet moment finds you after this message ends, that the name Peace Carrier is not something you earned by suffering enough or waiting long enough or believing hard enough. It is something you were given before the season began. The season simply revealed it. And what has been revealed cannot be unrevealed. What has been built in you through the braiding of all those hard years cannot be unbuilt. You are not the person who walked into the long season. You are the person who was assembled inside it. And that person, the one listening to these words right now, is ready for what comes next in a way that no earlier version of you could have been. You are a peace carrier, and the world has been waiting for you to arrive at exactly this moment, carrying exactly what you now carry, ready to offer exactly what only you can give. I want to begin here by anchoring what I just placed in you, because the name Peace Carrier is not simply a beautiful description of who you have become. It is a lens through which everything I am about to describe is going to make a different kind of sense. When you understand that you are someone who was built to carry and transmit something that the world is desperately short of, the 3 areas of transformation I am about to walk you through are not just personal improvements happening in your individual life. They are the specific conditions being created so that what you carry can actually reach the people it was always meant for. Your breakthrough is not only yours, it is the mechanism by which what was placed in you gets released into the world. Hold that as we go into each area. The first area is relationships, and I want to go deeper into this than I did when I introduced it in part 6. Because the relational shift that is coming for you is more significant and more layered than a simple exchange of old connections for new ones. What is actually happening in your relational world right now is a realignment, and realignment is a more precise word than change, because it implies that there was always a correct configuration, that the long season had temporarily displaced, and that what is now happening is a return to the arrangement that was always intended rather than the invention of something entirely new. The people who are leaving are not leaving because they were wrong or because the relationship was a mistake. Most of them played an important and legitimate role in the season that is now closing. Some of them were placed in your life specifically to carry you through periods when you did not have the strength to carry yourself. Some of them were companions for a road that has now ended, and their departure is not a betrayal. It is a completion. The difficulty is that completions can feel identical to abandonments from the inside, especially when you are already in a season of exhaustion and spiritual depletion. So I want to give you a way to distinguish between the two as they happen. An abandonment feels like being left behind. A completion feels like being released forward. If you pay attention to the quality of the feeling when a connection begins to loosen, you will find that most of what is moving away from you right now has the texture of release rather than rejection. There is a naturalness to it, even when it is uncomfortable. Even when there is grief in it, which there will be because real relationships deserve to be grieved when they change. The grief is clean. It does not have the jagged edge of betrayal. It has the softer edge of something that has run its full course and knows it. The new people are a different story entirely, and I want to prepare you for the specific quality of these arrivals so that you recognize them when they come and do not dismiss them as too good to be real. They will arrive with what I can only describe as a frequency match. You will meet them, and within the first conversation feel a recognition that your analytical mind will immediately try to explain away. Your analytical mind will say you are being naive, that you are projecting, that you have been alone long enough that anyone who treats you well feels extraordinary. Do not let that voice win. The frequency match you will feel is real. It is the result of two people who have both been through the braiding process, arriving at the same place, at the same time, with the same kind of rope. You will understand each other in a way that requires almost no explanation. You will be able to say things you have not said aloud in years and find them received without distortion. You will be known fully and without performance. And that experience of being known, after the long season of invisibility and misunderstanding, is going to feel almost overwhelming in the best possible way. Let it. You are not being foolish. You are being restored. The practical action in this area is simple, and it is this: stop managing the departures and stop manufacturing the arrivals. Your assignment in the relational shift that is coming is to remain open without forcing anything in either direction. When something loosens, let it loosen. When something new arrives, let it arrive. The peace carrier does not grip. The peace carrier holds things rightly, which means with presence and care, but without the white-knuckled control that the long season of uncertainty trained you to apply to everything you were afraid of losing. The second area is purpose, and I want to be very specific here, because the question of purpose has been one of the most painful unresolved questions of the long season. And I do not want to speak about it in ways that sound meaningful, but leave you in the same fog you have been navigating. So let me be direct. The one clear small step I described in part 6 is not going to arrive as a dramatic revelation. It is not going to come in the form of a vision or a dream or a thunderclap of divine clarity that removes all ambiguity in a single moment. It is going to arrive in a far quieter and more ordinary way. It is going to be a thought that returns, a specific, concrete, actionable thought that keeps surfacing through the noise of everything else. The kind of thought that you have perhaps already been having and have been dismissing as too small or too simple or too ordinary to be the thing that a calling of your magnitude is supposed to begin with. I want to tell you directly, the smallness of the step is not evidence that the vision is small. It is evidence that the vision is so large that the only possible way to begin moving toward it without being paralyzed by its scale is to start with something that your current capacity can actually hold. Every significant thing that has ever been built in the history of human endeavor began with a step that looked unreasonably small relative to what it eventually became. The first word of every book that changed someone's life was just a word. The first conversation that led to every meaningful movement was just a conversation. The first morning that a peace carrier woke up and chose to stay in their calling rather than release, it was just a morning. But it was the morning that made everything after it possible. The practical action in this area is to write down the thought that keeps returning. Not a vision board, not a 5-year plan, not a full articulation of your calling. Just the thought that keeps coming back. Write it down today, in whatever form it arrives, even if it is incomplete, even if it does not yet make full sense. Writing it down is an act of receiving it, and receiving it is the first movement toward the step that changes the trajectory of everything. The third area is resources and opportunities, and this is where I want to speak most carefully, because this is also where the enemy of your forward motion is most likely to disguise itself as wisdom. The voice that will tell you to be cautious when the opportunities begin to arrive. The voice that will counsel you to wait for more evidence before you trust what is being placed in front of you. The voice that will remind you of every time before when something looked like a door and turned out to be a wall. That voice will sound like discernment. It will use the language of wisdom and prudence and hard-won experience, and sometimes, in the right context, it is discernment. But the context comings for you now. It will primarily be the voice of a nervous system that has been in survival mode for so long that it has forgotten how to recognize safety when safety actually arrives. Here is how to distinguish between genuine discernment and fear, dressed as discernment. Genuine discernment brings with it a quality of peace, even when the answer is no. When genuine discernment tells you that something is not right, there is a settledness in that knowing, a quiet confidence that does not require you to defend it or convince yourself of it. Fear, on the other hand, brings anxiety regardless of the answer. When fear tells you not to trust something, it does not settle you. It simply redirects the anxiety toward a different object. Fear never actually gives you peace. It only gives you reasons. When the opportunities begin to arrive, and they are already beginning, check not for the presence of reasons, but for the presence of peace. The peace carrier has a particular advantage here, which is that the very thing you have been built to carry and transmit is also your most reliable navigational instrument. The peace that passes understanding is not only something you offer to others, it is something you were given as a compass. Trust it. When it is present, move forward. When it is absent, wait. Not the chronos waiting of the long season, the anxious endurance of someone counting days. The kairos waiting of someone who knows that the right moment has its own quality, and that rushing into the wrong moment is always more costly than remaining still in the right one. The resources that are coming are not coming because you finally found the right strategy or the right connection or the right positioning of your visible self in the marketplace. They are coming because the season of assembly is complete and the rope that was being braided through all the years of pressure and tension has reached the length and the strength that the next season requires. You did not earn this by fighting. You received it by enduring, and there is a profound difference between those two things that the long season has taught you in your body in a way that no teaching could have conveyed. What I want you to do right now, practically and immediately, is to identify one relationship, one purpose step, and one opportunity that is currently in front of you and that you have been hesitating to move toward. Just one in each area. Write them down alongside the thought that keeps returning. And then, before you close this message, make one small movement toward one of them. Not the whole step, just the turning of your face toward the thing that has been waiting for you to stop waiting and simply begin. The peace carrier does not wait for perfect conditions. The peace carrier moves when the peace says move, trusts when the peace says trust, and rests without guilt when the peace says rest. You have been given everything you need for the season that is now beginning. What remains is simply the step forward. I want to begin this final stretch of our time together by saying something that I hope lands in the deepest part of what you have been carrying today. You showed up. In a season where showing up has cost you more than most people around you will ever fully understand, you stayed with this message from the beginning to here. And that is not a small thing. That is not the behavior of someone who has given up. That is the behavior of someone who, even at the edge of the decision, even at the threshold of releasing everything, still had enough left to lean in one more time. I want you to know that I do not take that lightly, and I do not believe it was accidental that you are still here. All across the world right now, other chosen ones are walking into this exact same message, not because of an algorithm, not because of timing that can be explained by ordinary logic, but because something that moves beyond the visible mechanics of how content travels on a screen is directing people who are ready for this toward it, at the precise moment they need it most. You are not sitting alone in whatever room or car or quiet corner you are in right now. You are in a gathering of people who have all been through the braiding, who have all sat under their own juniper trees, who have all stood at the edge of the midnight hour, wondering if the dawn was ever actually coming. And every single one of them is arriving at this recognition at the same time you are. The chosen ones are waking up together, and you are part of that waking. I want to do something now that I am going to ask you to participate in fully, not as a mental exercise, but as a genuine physical and spiritual act. I want you to imagine, as vividly as you are able, that everything you have been carrying through the length of this long season is gathered in your hands right now. Not as an abstraction, as a weight. Let yourself feel the actual heaviness of it, the grief of the relationships that drifted, the ache of the dreams that were held in silence, the exhaustion of the years of invisible labor, the injury of being overlooked in spaces where you deserved to be seen, the midnight hours that stretched into seasons, the loss of trust in your own inner voice, the fatigue of fighting in environments that were never designed to receive what you carry. Let all of that gather in your hands right now and feel the full weight of it without bracing against it or rushing to release it. Now imagine that you are standing at a threshold, not the door from your dreams that was always just beyond reach, a different threshold, the threshold of the life that is now beginning. And at this threshold, there is a place to set things down, not a place of loss or defeat, a place of completion. The things you set down here are not being discarded. They are being received by the season that asks them of you, acknowledged in full, honored for what they cost you, and released from your hands, so that your hands are free for what is waiting on the other side. Set it down. Whatever is heaviest right now, set it at this threshold. You do not need to carry it into the next season. You were never meant to carry it forever. It was the material of the braiding, not the destination of it. And the rope is complete. Your hands are free. Something real was built here today, in the space between my voice and your heart, and it belongs to both of us now. If this message has meant something to you, if something shifted or settled, or was named in you today that needed to be named, I want to gently invite you to press like, not as a gesture toward a number, but as a quiet way of saying yes, something happened here, and I want it to travel further. Leave something in the comments below, a word, a sentence, whatever came up for you today, so that every chosen one who arrives at this message after you does not have to feel like they are the first one through the door. Your words in the comments become the community that holds the next person who arrives at their own edge. And if one person comes to mind right now, someone who has been carrying something heavy in silence, someone who has been standing at their own threshold without the language for what they are experiencing, share this with them. That one act of sharing is the simplest and most direct thing a peace carrier can do for someone who is still waiting for their voice to find them. If you feel moved to remain in this community of chosen ones who are waking up together, subscribing is simply the choice to stay at the table, to let the next message find you without you having to search. And if something in you wants to pass a blessing forward to the next person who finds their way here, there is a way to do that in the pinned comment below, with no pressure and no expectation attached. Now I want to return one final time to something I introduced at the very beginning of this message, because I believe it belongs here, at this threshold, more than it belonged anywhere else in our conversation together. Dr. James Rivers spent over 30 years discovering what happens to the frequency of a chosen one under the weight of a long season. And what he found was that the gamma frequency, the specific neural signature of someone who was built to carry something significant into the world, does not disappear under pressure. It waits. It becomes suppressed beneath the accumulated weight of grief and isolation and midnight hours and invisible labor. But the wiring is intact. The potential is still there. The signal is still there. What is needed is not a rebuilding, it's a restoration. A clearing of the congestion that the long season has layered over a frequency that was always strong enough to do what it was designed to do. The genius wave is 7 minutes. That is all. 7 minutes of precisely calibrated sound that gives your brain the acoustic environment it needs to begin synchronizing back toward the frequency you were born with, the frequency that the long season pressed down but could not remove. And the reason I am mentioning it here, at this threshold, is that this is the moment it matters most. Not before the midnight hour, when you still had reserves you were drawing on. Not in the middle of the season, when the pressure was building but the rope was not yet complete. Here, at the turn. When the Kairos moment is arriving and the door that was always open is finally visible, and what you need more than anything else is to be able to hear your own signal clearly enough to walk through it without hesitation. If the genius wave met you somewhere in the middle of this message, and you know it is a yes, it is waiting for you in the pinned comment below. Not as a requirement, not as the missing piece without which none of what I have shared today will work, but as an instrument available to a peace carrier who has set down the weight of the long season at the threshold and is ready to walk forward with both hands free and both ears open to the frequency that was always, from the beginning, uniquely and irreplaceably theirs. Type the words "I see it" in the comments if you are standing at the threshold right now. If you can feel, even dimly, even through the exhaustion, that something has turned, that the midnight is giving way, that the rope is complete and the door is open, and the people who are coming toward you are already on their way. I see it. Just those 3 words, because I want to know you are here, and I want the ones who come after you to know that someone stood at this exact threshold before them and chose to step through. What I want to leave you with now is not more information. It is not another concept or another framework or another invitation to act. It is something quieter than all of that. It is a blessing, and it is waiting for you on the other side of everything we have just walked through together. I want to stay here with you for just a moment longer before you go, because there is one more thing that needs to be said, and it is not a thing that requires much language. It is a thing that requires only that you be still enough to receive it. You came into this message carrying something that most people in your life could not see. You carried it through every part of what we walked through together today, through the naming of the signs, through the honest sitting with the cost, through the ancient language of Kava and Kairos, through the description of what is already moving in your relationships and your purpose and your resources, through the setting down of the weight at the threshold. You carried it all the way here. And what I want you to know, before you close this and return to the life that is now beginning to open around you, is that the carrying itself was never the problem. You were never too sensitive, too deep, too much, too broken, too late, or too far gone. You were always exactly what you were supposed to be, at exactly the stage you were supposed to be at, in exactly the season that was required to build what needed to be built in you. The peace carrier does not announce herself. She simply arrives. And the people who need what she carries recognize it without being told what it is. You have been arriving your whole life in rooms where something shifted when you walked in. In conversations where something settled when you spoke. In relationships where something was held together by a quality in you that you could not fully name, but that others felt in ways they remembered long after the moment passed. That was never accidental. That was always the function. And now, on the other side of everything the long season asked of you, that function is clearer and stronger, and more precisely calibrated than it has ever been before. I want to speak one final blessing over you now, and I want you to receive it in whatever way feels most natural to you, with your eyes closed or open, in silence or with your hand on your chest, in whatever posture allows you to let something in rather than simply hear it pass by. May you walk out of this season and into the next one, knowing, at a level deeper than thought and steadier than feeling, that you were never abandoned, that the silence was not emptiness but preparation, that the closed doors were not rejections but redirections, that the midnight was not the end of the night but the turn of it, that the juniper tree was not a place of defeat but a place of meeting, where the one who saw you most completely chose to find you undone and speak to you, not with judgment, but with bread and water, and the quiet instruction to rise because the journey was not over, and the strength being offered was sufficient for the road ahead. May the kairos that has been approaching you from the other direction finally become visible to you in your waking life, not just in the knowing you have been carrying privately for longer than you can remember. May the rope that was braided through every hard year hold exactly the weight it was built to hold. And may you feel in your hands the difference between the weight of the long season that you have set down and the weight of the calling that you are now free to carry rightly. May the peace carrier in you be recognized by the people who need her most. And may that recognition arrive without you having to work for it, or perform it, or prove it. May the right people find you with a speed that removes any remaining doubt that what is unfolding is intentional, that you are seen, that you are known, and that what was placed in you before the season began has not diminished through the long years of pressure, but has been refined by them into something more durable and more luminous than it was before the fire. May your voice be returned to you in full. May your rest be deep and unguarded. May your joy return not as a performance of gratitude, but as a genuine uprising of something that was always underneath the grief, waiting for the grief to finish its work so that it could surface without apology. May you laugh again in a way that surprises you. May you dream again in a way that excites you. May you speak your vision aloud again to people who are finally able to hold it without diminishing it. And may you know, on the days when the old exhaustion tries to return and the voice of the long season tries to speak over the voice of the new one, that you are not going back. The threshold has been crossed. The weight has been set down. The kairos is here. And the peace carrier who arrived at the edge of a decision she could not come back from, and chose instead to stay long enough to hear one more voice, is not the same person who will walk forward from this moment. You are not the same. You are ready. And the world that has been waiting for what you carry is ready for you. Go gently, go fully. Go in the deep and unshakable peace that you were always meant to carry, and that no season, no matter how long or how dark, was ever able to take from you. You are chosen, you are assembled, you are here. And that is enough. That has always been enough.